All right, let's start part four, which will be the last of the series on Kyle Rittenhouse's hearing, going over Binger's motion here. At this point is where we're going to pick up on the bombshell that Binger laid down on the defense. This concerns the old FBI fixed-wing aircraft that was supposedly circling around Kenosha that night. Well, actually, we know that it was. The actual location of the FBI drone was evidently mapped by the Kyle Rittenhouse Defense Fund and posted on Twitter. It states here, position of the FBI aircraft the moment Kyle Rittenhouse escaped the attempted ambush by Josh Suminski and Joseph Rosenbaum. Aircraft altitude 8,900 feet, 2.1 nautical miles. And this was posted on September 22nd, around 9 o'clock. And I'll let you guys do all of the finagling as far as how far away, what it could likely discern at that kind of distance in the comment section below. And we're going to examine this not so much from a standpoint of disproving or proving, but to just kind of get a handle on what was going on that night, the timing of it all, where things took place. And then we'll ask the question, how likely is it that the FBI drone footage is going to somehow change things here? Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
Attorney Sharafasi is going to start off here, and then, of course, Binger is going to weigh in and disrupt everything.
I'm not clear, listening to Mr. Binger, whether he was disagreeing with the statement that the accused was moving towards putting the fire out, or whether he just said he should have gone home. Are you claiming that he was not attempting to use the extinguisher to put out the fire, or
Yes.
intending to do so?
What I'm saying is that in the circumstances before the ultimate confrontation between the defendant and Mr. Rosenbaum, that Mr. Rittenhouse was pursuing Mr. Rosenbaum. Mr. Rosenbaum had not, in fact, done anything. They hadn't even gotten to the 63rd and Sheridan Road car source location. Mr. Rittenhouse had a fire extinguisher. He was carrying it along, pursuing Mr. Rosenbaum, and I believe that he was assuming...
Wait a minute. I thought I heard the first version by the defense was that Mr. Rosenbaum was pursuing the accused.
By the way, notice that he says, I believe. Again, we don't care what you believe. What do you have that can show evidence to the jury?
And that the accused had the fire extinguisher? What is it?
Your Honor, our client leaves from 60th and Sheridan with a fire extinguisher. He runs or trots down Sheridan Road, passing Mr. Rosenbaum. This is all on video. There is no interaction between my client and Mr. Rosenbaum. Then Mr. Rosenbaum gives chase, and it's in the video where Kyle drops the fire extinguisher right as he enters the lot of car source number 3, with Mr. Rosenbaum in hot pursuit of my client. There's nothing on the tape, any tape I've seen. If they have something I haven't seen, I'd love to see it, where he has any interaction with Mr. Rosenbaum. And the state says that he was down there earlier with Mr. Balch. I don't know when they're talking about, but when he left the 59th Street car source and went down, the whole thing is on video. He goes to that parking lot, which would be the southwest corner of 60th and Sheridan. There's somebody who confronts Kyle, and he walks away from them, goes over to the gas station. That's where the call comes in. He's never down to the 63rd Street car source. He never has any interaction with Mr. Rosenbaum until Mr. Rosenbaum gives chase to Kyle. That's all on video.
Okay, so Mark Richards is saying that up until the point that Kyle was chased by JoJo, they had no interaction. We're going to see footage that shows that Kyle may have, in fact, been running in the same direction as JoJo, There's nothing to indicate that there was any interaction between the two. We'll see here in a moment what I'm talking about. And no, I don't have the FBI drone footage, so don't ask. How do you know that Mr. Richards hasn't seen what you're referring to? Good question to ask here in a moment.
He's got access to it, but
He has access to it, but how do you know he didn't access it yet?
on this particular evening, the FBI had a fixed-wing aircraft hovering above Kenosha. We have the footage from that. Council can obtain it from Joint Services. I emailed Council a few weeks ago and let him know about it.
Yes.
Joint Services, I suppose, is the clearinghouse for discovery, so they don't probably email the stuff to each other. They send it to this one entity, and I guess that's where they get their information. I'm only guessing. I'm not a lawyer.
But it shows.
Yesterday.
No, I can pull up the email, Mark. I emailed you several weeks ago and let you know about it.
Now, I want to go back and play that part again. He's claiming he emailed Mark and told him about this drone footage. Earlier, he said that Mark had not seen the footage yet. Well, if he emailed Mark and told him about the footage, how does he know that Mark hasn't seen it yet? Well, maybe there's something about the whole Joint Services deal that allows him to know this, but it's kind of odd. Now, I want to go back and play it again. Notice how quickly he moves on after telling Mark Richards that he had emailed him earlier.
No, I can pull up the email, Mark. I emailed you several weeks ago and let you know about it. The video is an infrared video.
If I was in Binger's shoes and I have a judge up there really, really wanting to know, hey, did you email him or not? I would have taken a little bit more time and said, hey, Mark, you might want to check your email inbox. It was on September 3rd, but I did email it to you. He just kind of moves on. I'm not sure that Binger's being very honest here, but who's to say?
And what it shows
Well,
is that...
let's get settled when you sent it to him.
I haven't received it yet. We're picking it up after today's hearing.
But I mean, when were you notified that it's available?
I emailed Mr. Richards on
Pardon me?
September 3rd.
September 3rd, Your Honor, and this was also
Okay.
emailed to me directly.
Okay.
And I was out of the office for
Go ahead.
30 minutes.
What that footage...
Somebody there, and I don't know if it's from Mark Binger's office or maybe it was from Joint Services or somebody, somebody jumped in and said September 3rd. Mark Binger is saying September 3rd. My question is, why didn't Mark Richards know about this email? If the email was sent to Mark Richards and Mark Richards didn't know about it, then that's a problem for Mark Richards. Somebody screwed up in his office. If, however, if it was not sent to Mark Richards, that could be a violation. And I want to make it really clear. If you're going to be sending a person an important email like, hey, there's drone footage you need to see as part of discovery, you want a read receipt and a delivery receipt on those emails. If you have happened to mistyped the email address, which is inexcusable, they have certainly communicated long enough to have their email addresses automatically inserted in as they start to type. If he sent it to a different email address, just because maybe there's a letter off or something like that, then that's a violation. You cannot just simply change the email address so that you could claim that you sent it, but oh, oops, I'm sorry, Your Honor. We did send it, but I guess we misspelled Mark Richards' last name in the email address. That won't cut it. So something went wrong here. Mark Richards either screwed up or Binger's lying. I would also say that if Kyle was actually chasing Joseph Rosenbaum, and this is the first time that Kyle's attorneys have heard about this, then this is a really bad mark on Kyle. You have to be honest with your attorneys. You got to tell them everything. If you were in fact chasing after Joseph Rosenbaum earlier in the evening, you got to tell them. The last thing you want is for them to be surprised during a trial. Now, keep in mind, I don't know if Kyle was chasing after JoJo or possibly that Kyle was just running in the same direction. We're going to see footage in a moment that tends to show the latter, at least in my view.
Yeah, it shows, and it's an infrared video because this is nighttime, so infrared is the best way to capture what's going on.
Yeah, but it doesn't look all that good.
What it shows is Mr. Rosenbaum running south towards the 63rd Street car source location. Behind him, probably 20 to 30 feet, is the defendant. Mr. Rosenbaum, upon reaching that location, immediately runs near a parked car. Mr. Rittenhouse follows him, runs to the other side of that parked car, and appears to turn and confront Mr. Rosenbaum.
Across a car. Okay.
I will note that where Mr. Rittenhouse stops near that parked car is exactly where that fire extinguisher is later found. Okay? So, Mr. Rosenbaum hadn't even gotten to that car source yet. Hadn't had the opportunity to do anything, hadn't done any fires, done any property damage, did nothing. Mr. Rittenhouse is following him with the fire extinguisher.
Following him implies an intent that you cannot prove, but okay.
Probably because he thinks Mr. Rosenbaum is going to do something. But Mr. Rosenbaum never does. What happens is when they arrive at the car source location, Mr. Rittenhouse turns and confronts Mr. Rosenbaum from across this parked car, says something to him. Of course, we can't see. It's a video from an airplane, so we don't know.
If it's video footage from an airplane, I'm not sure you're going to be able to pick up the fact that he was saying something to him. Again, I don't know how good the infrared is now, but that seems a little bit of a stretch, but we'll see when it comes out.
We don't know what happened, but we know immediately upon that confrontation, Mr. Rosenbaum then runs around behind the parked car, and the chase starts at that point in the parking lot.
That sounds like an attack. That sounds like an attack.
But prior to that, Mr. Rosenbaum was running first, Mr. Rittenhouse was running after him. And I would note, he's running after him with an AR-15 rifle, openly displayed. And Mr. Rosenbaum at no time has a weapon.
Okay, so that must have terrified Joseph Rosenbaum. That's what you're implying. Joseph Rosenbaum had no choice but to run from Kyle, because who wouldn't run from somebody carrying an AR-15 rifle? Then why is it that Joseph Rosenbaum is chasing Kyle just a few seconds later? Did Joseph Rosenbaum get a lot of courage all of a sudden?
In this entire incident, we know this because obviously the defense wanted to introduce that he was trying to get a weapon. So he never had a weapon at any point. So Mr. Rosenbaum is being chased by an armed individual who is assuming Mr. Rosenbaum is going to do something wrong and
We don't know that.
wants to stop him and does in fact confront Mr. Rosenbaum at that parking lot. That is the context here. And the FBI video gives us the context here that we didn't previously have.
Okay, and you said that Mr. Rosenbaum then circled the car and then the chase began, and who's chasing whom?
At that point then, Mr. Rosenbaum goes around behind the car, starts to chase Mr. Rittenhouse. They run into the street briefly, then cut across the car source parking lot. It's at that point that Mr. Rosenbaum throws that plastic bag towards Mr. Rittenhouse. They then run in between some parked cars, and Mr. Rittenhouse shoots and kills Mr. Rosenbaum.
Yeah, I think the judge already knew that. He just wanted you to say it. After the confrontation between Rittenhouse and Rosenbaum, who was chasing whom? And he forces Binger to have to admit, yeah, okay, it was Rosenbaum chasing Rittenhouse.
Well, I still think there are dissimilar incidents.
Okay, so I thought I'd go over to Google Maps and just give everybody a kind of an idea about what the location looks like. This Shell station right here, Kyle is going to cut right across its corner and head south. All right, so we all owe a debt of gratitude to Orkanut. He's the one that put all this footage together, time synced it for us so we can tell what happened when. Okay, so at this moment in time, we're at 11:48 and 11 seconds. Both Rosenbaum and Rittenhouse are walking south on Sheridan Road. Right there, Rosenbaum, for some reason, starts to run. I went back and played it, and as near as I could tell, Rosenbaum appears to run before Kyle does. Okay, a little bit moment in time later, this is at the 11:48 and 22 seconds. Kyle is walking down Sheridan Road. Rosenbaum's ahead of him, but we can't see him. Now, the person behind Rittenhouse there is McGinnis in the black shirt. Okay, right there, something causes Kyle and McGinnis to start to run. This is at 11:48 and 24 seconds. All right, at this point here, this is when Rosenbaum comes around the trailer or around this vehicle. I think it's an SUV. You can see the fire extinguisher on the ground, and we don't know where Rittenhouse is, but this is where Rosenbaum is starting to circle around to attack. There he comes around. And the attack begins. So what does this mean? Kyle begins running at 11:48 and 24 seconds. Jojo attacks him at 11:48 and 32 seconds, 8 seconds later. So there's 8 seconds of footage that's sort of missing. Now, from my perspective here, I cannot tell from what we can see what caused Joseph Rosenbaum to begin running and what caused Kyle to begin running in the same direction. Will the FBI drone footage provide some additional detail? It's kind of hard to believe it will, but hey, you got to wait and find out. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.